Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Fuzz, and today I'm continuing on with my must-own 4K movies series, which I've recently been reviving and even expanding over the last few weeks. And today I'm going to be focusing on movies from the 2000s, which, believe it or not, I think this is the first time I've ever done any kind of video dedicated to movies from this era. And that's because when I first started the channel, the idea was to keep the niche of the channel more focused on movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and in particular, action, sci-fi, horror, and adjacent genre films from these eras. So much of the channel content over the last couple years has been focused on those eras and genres. That said, we got some great movies in the 2000s as well. And there are a number of titles from this era that have periodically come up on the channel in various like list videos or collection update videos I've done. And over the last few weeks, I've started going decade by decade and doing top 20 must-own 4K movies lists for each one of those decades. I did one for the 90s, did one for the 80s, and I did one for the 70s, and there are links to all of those videos in the description. And I was just going to keep it as a trilogy at that point. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know, with all of these must-own 4K videos I've been doing for new collectors, maybe it's time that I dedicate a video to some of the best 4K movie releases from the 2000s. So that's what I've got going down here today, a list of my top 20 must-own 4K movies from the 2000s. We're talking 2000 to 2009 here. Now, I always like to clarify when I do these videos, when I say must-own, all I really mean is if you're a fan of the film in question, then I think it's a must-own title for the 4K format. And I will get to the list here in just a moment, but before I do that, we do have a new Fuzz Club member that I want to give a shout out to real quick here. Marsmonster just became the latest member of the Fuzz Club. Marsmonster, thank you so much for your added support of the channel. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed chatting with you in the comments so far. I definitely look forward to more of that, but your support means a lot, so thank you so much. And if any of you out there would like to know more about the Fuzz Club, there is a link in the description below. You can just click on that link or click the join button below, and it'll bring up all the membership information for you. All right, now, without any further ado, let's get into my list and rock this. Okay, and just like with the other videos in this series, once again, I have a very loose ranking here. Don't read too much into it, but it is a ranking, a countdown from 20 to 1. And starting off with my number 20, we've got a great little heist flick here that that has a lot of rewatch value for me personally. I love this one, and I'm talking about The Italian Job from 2003. Great film here with an awesome cast, Marky Mark, Donald Sutherland, Edward Norton, Charlize Theron, Jason Statham is in this one. Yeah, this has got a great cast, and this is one that I always have a lot of fun returning to. Now, I put this as a must-own 4K. For one thing, if you're a fan of the film, then I do think you owe it to yourself to pick this up on 4K, because the last time we got any kind of home media release of this title, it was way back in 2006. This was the first year that they started producing Blu-rays, and so that's the last time this one got a Blu-ray release, was in 2006. And of course, during those first few years of Blu-ray production, we didn't always get the greatest transfers, did we? Yeah, I think this one was definitely in need of a 4K upgrade, and I do think this looks significantly better than we've ever seen this film look before. Now, of course, this is a remake of a 1969 film, so before anybody asks, no, I've never seen the remake. I plan to get around to it eventually, but yeah, I've just never gotten around to seeing that original film with Michael Caine, I believe, right? But I've always loved this one. And in fact, when this film first came out, I didn't even know it was a remake at the time, 22 years ago. But of course, finding out that it was a remake later on, that doesn't make me like this film any less. This film is just a blast. I always have fun returning to this one. Yeah, it's got a high rewatch value for me personally, but it's a great looking 4K. The HDR gives you so much more depth to the image than that old Blu-ray ever had, and the colors look incredible on this this 4K release. Lots of pop to the colors. So if you're a big fan of this film and you don't own it on 4K yet, and the last time you saw this film was on that old, not so great 2006 Blu-ray, then I would definitely recommend adding this one to your collection. So for my number 20, The Italian Job. All right, and next up for my number 19, we've got a film here that's got a lot of personal nostalgic value for me. I'm talking about the film Almost Famous from the year 2000. This 4K, if you are a fan of this film, if you are as big of a fan of this film as I am, then this is absolutely a must-own on the 4K format. Not only does it look better than it ever has before, and it is a fairly significant upgrade on 4K, but they give you the full extended bootleg cut on 4K. They give you both the theatrical and the bootleg cut on 4K. And for me, with this film, I think the bootleg cut is the only way to go. It's the only version to watch as far as I'm concerned. Now, not everybody's going to agree with that. Some people like the slimmer, shorter version of the film. But with the bootleg cut, it's about, I think it's like a half an hour longer than what originally ran in theaters. It's a significantly longer cut. And you do get some great extra context and backstory there that you don't get in the theatrical version. So yeah, I think the bootleg cut is absolutely the only way to go with this film. But I'm a huge fan of this film, and I was always going to want to see as much of this film as possible. So, I mean, your own mileage may vary, but the 4K really does look stunning. It is easily the best this film has ever looked. So if you're a fan of Almost Famous, then I would definitely recommend adding this movie to your collection on 4K. So yeah, for my number 19, Almost Famous. All right, and moving right along to my number 18 here. I've got an Antoine Fuqua film from 2007. I'm a big Antoine Fuqua fan. This dude just knows how to make entertaining movies. But I'm talking about Marky Mark in Shooter. Awesome film, and you can't go wrong with this movie on 4K. I do think it's a pretty significant improvement over Blu-ray, and I just wanted to have this movie in the best possible quality available. And so I couldn't help but get this one on 4K. But this is another one that has a lot of rewatch value, right? This one's very rewatchable. And so, yeah, like I said, I felt like I needed to have it in the absolute best quality possible. So if you're a big fan of this film and you're feeling the same way, then yeah, I would recommend getting the 4K. It definitely has more depth to it, more pop to it, and a lot more detail to the image. So yeah, it's definitely an improvement over the Blu-ray. Oh, and it's worth noting, I got the 4K Steelbook here, which is usually quite reasonably priced on Amazon or at other places. So if this is one you're interested in, I would definitely recommend adding this to your collection on 4K. Shooter. Okay, and for my number 17, we've got a little M. Night Shyamalan action here. I'm talking about Unbreakable from 2000. And the thing about M. Night is his movies tend to lend themselves really well to the 4K format. They tend to look really gorgeous in 4K, and Unbreakable is no exception, right? It's just the way his films look aesthetically. Yeah, the 4K really makes his films look the best they possibly can, and this is easily the best this movie has ever looked on home media before. You definitely notice a lot more detailed image here, and of course it's got a lot more depth, and it just has this wonderful presence to it in general. Everything looks just really vibrant, right? So if you're a fan of this film, if you're a fan of M. Night's films, then I think you owe it to yourself to get Unbreakable on 4K. Of course, I say you should get the whole trilogy. Right? Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. Get them all on 4K. They all look tremendous on the format. But we're talking about the 2000s, and well, from the year 2000, I'm recommending Unbreakable. All right, next up for my number 16 is an interesting choice here, because this is one that I was like kind of skeptical of when I was first told that this was a good one to check out, right? It was another collector. When I first got back into collecting and first kind of started collecting 4K, there was a collector, and I don't even remember who it was. It was in some discussion group somewhere who told me, you've got to check out this movie on 4K. I was surprised it looked as good as it did, but it is a stunning demo-worthy 4K. And so I bought it and I checked it out, and the dude wasn't wrong. I was blown away by how good this looked. And I'm talking about the Hulk movie, Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003. And it had been a while since I'd seen it when I picked up this 4K, but I was totally blown away with how this movie looked in 4K. And, I love this movie anyway. I like what Ang Lee did with it. He made it a very comic-y kind of movie, used a lot of split screen and cool like transitions and all kinds of cool stuff to make the movie feel kind of like a comic book, right? And all that stuff just lends itself really well to 4K. You've got some great detail here, a lot of great detail, which kind of surprised me considering all the CGI. But it looks stunning in 4K. It really does. Now, some of the CGI is showing its age, and some people may not dig the way the Hulk looks. The colors, but the colors do pop. They really do pop, and you definitely notice the HDR on this one. It's definitely got more depth to it. So you may not be perfectly okay with the shade of green, but I can tell you that green is still popping. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised knowing what I know now about Ang Lee and his track record, right? Ang Lee is a pro. He knows what he's doing, and he makes really good, visually stunning looking movies. And, he just did a really great job with this, and I was truly taken aback by how good this looked on 4K. So if you're a fan of this movie or a fan of superhero movies in general, and you haven't added this to your collection yet on 4K, I would definitely recommend picking it up and checking it out. You might be pleasantly surprised, and I don't think this is really a particularly expensive 4K these days either. You might even be able to find it somewhere for like $10 or $15. So yeah, I think it's worth your time to check it out if you're a fan of of the genre, of the superhero genre, and you haven't seen this one yet. Then yeah, check out this 4K release of Ang Lee's Hulk. Okay, and next up for my number 15, another heist film for you here. I'm talking about The Score from 2001. Robert De Niro, Edward Norton, Marlon Brando in this. This is such a great film, and this one's got a lot of personal, sentimental value for me. This is a comfort movie of mine, and one of those films that I never get tired of rewatching. So when I first heard that this was coming to 4K, I was blown away because I never really expected to get this one on 4K. And this is a Kino Lorber release here. And, that's one thing I love about Kino Lorber. Sometimes they bring these unexpected films to 4K that you wouldn't even think would get a 4K release. And so I'm just really glad that they did. And that's mainly why it's on this list. It's the best the film's ever looked, easily. The detail on this 4K looks really good. I mean, I think that's one of the main benefits. You definitely notice a lot more detail. And of course, the HDR doing the increased depth and pop. But I was really taken aback by the increased detail on this. And it totally blows away my old Blu-ray of this film. But it does have a lot of personal value to me. I'm a big fan of heist films, and heist films in particular tend to be really rewatchable to me. Those are the kinds of films I like to return to quite a bit. And this one is near the top of that list of heist films that I tend to rewatch the most. This is one of those films that I just had to have in the absolute best possible quality available. And the fact that it was even available on 4K was a pretty big deal in its own right for me. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this film. And if you are too, then I would strongly recommend adding this 4K to your collection from Kino Lorber. For my number 15, The Score. All right, and moving right along to my number 14 here, a little more superhero action for you guys. And this is kind of a double here. I'm talking about two films, a 2002 film and a 2004 film. And I'm talking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and 2, which I have on this 4K set here. Now, a word of advice about this one. You can get the existing set I have, but understand that this only has theatrical versions of each of the films. I bought this a few years ago when I was relatively new to collecting 4K, and I just assumed this was probably the best we were going to get on 4K. I didn't know that Sony a few years years later, was going to come along and release a new version that actually has Spider-Man 2, includes the extended cut or director's cut of Spider-Man 2. So I'm going to be buying that. I'm going to be double dipping for these films on 4K because I want that extended cut on 4K. Now, I don't know when this new version is coming out. I don't know if we have an actual release date yet. I think we've just heard, at least as of this video recording, that it's coming soon, but I don't know that we actually have a release date yet. So I will definitely be talking about that on the channel and probably do like a community post or something on it as well. Once the new version goes on sale, I'll put a pre-order link up for you guys to check out. But I just don't know when that's going to be. But these films look awesome on 4K, as you might expect. Right? Sam Raimi, another pro who absolutely knows what he's doing. I love Sam Raimi. I love his style. He's so artsy and he does so much cool stuff with the camera. Right? And this is, of course, no exception. I think it looks great on 4K. Spider-Man 1 and 2, I think they look incredible on 4K. I feel like these films lend themselves really well to the 4K format. You got lots of cool practical stuff as well. And surprisingly enough, the CGI actually holds up pretty well, all things considered, considering the vintage of the film. I just think it looks fantastic in 4K. Both Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. So, I guess that's about all I can really say about this for now. For my number 14, Spider-Man 1 and 2. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, do me a favor and please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate that notification bell as well so you can be alerted when I'm posting videos that you might be interested in. Also, don't forget to like the video, maybe even leave a comment as well. It may not seem like a big deal, but it really does help with the channel's visibility and the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All right, and next up for my number 13, got a little horror here for you. This is one that, if you're a big horror fan, then I think this is definitely a must-own on 4K. Talking about The Mist, this is a great film, and, a little bit controversial there on the ending of the film, so maybe not everybody loves this film, but if you are a big fan of this movie, then I would definitely recommend picking up this 4K release. It's a 4-disc set. You get 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays. And what's cool about this release is you don't only get the standard theatrical version of the film in 4K, but you also get the black and white version of the film in 4K. And some people like that black and white version even more. Now, I'll be the first to admit the CGI effects, they do suffer a little bit in this. I mean, they don't quite hold up as well as we'd like to see. But I've also heard that if you watch it in black and white, that's not as noticeable. Those CGI, any flaws in the CGI are not as noticeable in black and white. Now, I haven't actually checked out the black and white version. I'm not much of a black and white guy myself. I prefer the full color. But I did think this was the best this movie has ever looked by a significant margin, at least compared to what I remember of the last time I watched this movie. Yeah, I thought this 4K was a great looking 4K. Now, I don't know if I'd call it like a demo-worthy or reference 4K, but it's definitely a big improvement over, I think, what we got previously for this film. So, if you're a fan of this one, I would definitely recommend checking this one out on 4K. For my number 13, The Mist. Next up for my number 12, this is a pretty big one here because of what Arrow Video did with this release. Arrow Video released a definitive version of this movie, and if you're a fan of it, it's absolutely a must-own on 4K. I'm talking about The Chronicles of Riddick from 2004. Little Vin Diesel action there. Arrow really outdid themselves for this release. First off, this edition includes 3 separate 4K discs. You get the theatrical cut of the film in 4K, you get a director's cut of the film on 4K on a separate disc, and then you also get a different version of the theatrical cut. You get a different aspect ratio, 1.78 to 1, which fills up the entirety of your 16:9 screen. So you have the option of watching this movie either in the standard scope aspect ratio or watching it in the open matte version that fills up the whole screen. However, that only applies to the theatrical cut. If you want to watch the director's cut, they don't have an open matte version of that. That you get just the scope ratio for the director's cut. But I love that they include all three versions of the film in this release. And then on top of that, you get some incredible bonus features with this release, including a feature-length making of documentary that I think is new for this release. And I haven't even had a chance to watch the documentary yet. I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. I just haven't had time to sit down and do it yet. But I'm really glad that they included that on here. And there's a shitload of other special features on here as well. So yeah, if you're a fan of the Chronicles of Riddick, if you're a fan of this franchise, then this Arrow release is absolutely a must-own. I'm sure it's the best it's ever looked before. Now, I got to be honest, I had never seen the film prior to picking up this release. It was a first-time watch for me. So I'm just kind of, I'm assuming that this is easily the best this film has ever looked. But you should keep in mind it does have some 2000s CGI in there, and it's going to look a little bit softer compared to the non-CGI stuff. That's really to be expected with any film from this era, so just keep that in mind. But setting that aside, I think this looked really good on 4K. I thought it was a stunning looking image. So if you're a fan of this film, you definitely owe it to yourself to pick up this Arrow Video 4K of the Chronicles of Riddick. For my number 12, Chronicles of Riddick. All right, next up for my number 11, we've got a 2001 film here. I don't know how everybody's going to feel about this one, but I'm going to go ahead and include it anyway. I'm talking about the very first Fast and the Furious film. Paul Walker, Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez. You can't go wrong with the original, what I will call classic film, even though some people may take exception to me referring to the first Fast and Furious as a classic. Often some people will note that it's a ripoff of Point Break. So I don't know. Your own mileage may vary on that. I don't really care. The way I see it, everything is a ripoff of something else these days. So that's not the kind of thing that really bothers me a whole lot. I've always liked the first Fast and the Furious movie. And, if you're a fan of just the first one, but don't really care about the rest, then you can buy the first film on 4K as a standalone 4K. But if you're anything like me and you kind of enjoy the whole franchise, or, maybe with the exception of one or two installments, then you should think about picking up some kind of box set. Of course, I bought this. This is like one of the early 4K collections I bought when I first got back into collecting movies and first started collecting 4K. And I seem to remember this was like on sale for some ridiculously good price. At the time, it was like $40 for 8 films on 4K. So I snagged it at the time and, became a bigger Fast and Furious fan after that, because at the time I think I'd only seen like the first 2 films, maybe the first 3 films, and I'd never seen any of the other stuff. But after I picked up this set, I watched them all, and I became a pretty big fan of the franchise. I like most of them. I'm not a big fan of Fate of the Furious or Fast X. Those are the 2 I don't really care for. The others, for the most part, I do really enjoy. You can get Fast and Furious as a standalone if you just want that first movie. If you're not interested in all the crazy stuff that they do after that first movie, I totally get it. But or you can get some kind of cool set like this. You may even still be able to find this 8-movie set because now there's 10 movies now, and so there's probably a 10-movie set out there now. But you may be able to find this 8-movie set still out there for a really good price. And, what I did is I bought this, and then as F9 and Fast X came out, I just bought those separately as standalone releases. Anyway, I think the Fast and the Furious looks really good on 4K. There's a lot of practical stuff in there that I think lends itself really well to the 4K format. And you also have, I believe this has a DTSX track, which I really like DTSX mixes, maybe even more so than Dolby Atmos mixes, at least, based on what I'm able to evaluate on my own stereo system, which is not an Atmos system, but I can always tell the difference between different mixes still. And I just like the way DTSX DTS:X mixes, sound over Atmos mixes, at least the ones I've heard. And all the Fast and Furious movies are DTS:X, if I remember correctly. So yeah, you can't go wrong with something like this, either a box set or just get the first Fast and Furious on 4K. But either way, that is my number 11, The Fast and the Furious. All right, moving into the top 10 here, I've got a Steven Spielberg film from 2005, his remake of War of the Worlds, starring Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning. Yeah, this is an awesome looking 4K. And you know, I never really thought the old Blu-ray really looked that good, to be honest, right? It was really blown out and kind of a lot of crushing on the old Blu-ray, and some, you know, the lighter shots looked really washed out. This corrects all of those issues, and the image just has this richness to it that is that blows away the old Blu-ray, right? The image is more refined, more balanced looking. All the darker areas of the film, you can see a lot more detail. It doesn't crush so easily. Some of the lighter areas of the film, they rein them in a little bit so they're not so blown out looking. Yeah, it's just overall, the film in general has more depth to it, as you would expect with 4K with the HDR. The HDR really helps with this one. And the colors look really good as well. And of course, you see a lot more detail with this. And as you might expect, a Steven Spielberg film on 4K, yeah, Steven Spielberg obviously knows what he's doing. He makes beautiful looking films. So as you might imagine, his films are going to look really good on 4K. And that is certainly the case with War of the Worlds. So if you're a fan of this one, I would definitely recommend adding this to your collection on 4K. War of the Worlds for my number 10. All right, moving on to my number 9 here, we've got a Ridley Scott film. So another heavyweight director here who absolutely knows what he's doing. I'm talking about a 2007 film here with Denzel Washington, American Gangster. You also got Russell Crowe in this one. Ridley Scott, I mean, he's a hell of a filmmaker. So as you might imagine, his films always look great in 4K. But that's especially true with a film like this, where everything is real and in camera. You don't have a bunch of CGI or anything like that. Everything's happening right there in front of the camera. So you get a lot more detail and a lot more vibrancy to the image. Everything looks nice and vivid. It's just a gorgeous looking image on 4K. And I think you can make the case this is a demo-worthy 4K and such a great film too. So if you're a fan of Denzel like I am, if you're a fan of Ridley Scott, and if you're a fan of this film, then I would highly recommend adding this to your collection on 4K. So for my number 9, American Gangster. Okay, and for my number 8, we've got a 2002 David Fincher film here. I'm talking about Panic Room. And, you know, this was a hard one to put on this list because you may have a hard time finding this on 4K. In fact, I'm going to guess there's a good chance you will have a hard time finding it unless you're willing to pay a little bit more for an out-of-print copy on eBay or the secondary market somehow. That's the problem with this release. It is a fantastic looking 4K. I absolutely think it's a must own for any collection for people who are fans of David Fincher and fans of this film. But the problem is that Sony only did a limited run of these, a limited edition steelbook. And then once those are gone, that's it. They don't have a standard edition 4K release of this film. So as of right now, this is out of print. Now, one of the things that Sony sometimes will do is they will do like what they call a limited edition reprint of the steelbook, right? And I think there's a good chance they'll do that with this title because it is a popular title and because I know that not everybody who wants this title was able to get their hands on it when this came out. I mean, this sold out really quickly. So I don't know how I feel about Sony and them doing this like limited steelbook only deal. They're doing that with a lot of their releases, if not all of them. And I don't know. It seems like they don't really want to make that much money. They could be selling a lot more copies of this if they would just produce more copies, or at least put out a very basic, like standard Amaray case. You don't even need a slipcover. Just put out a standard 4K so that collectors who weren't able to get their hands on this steelbook before it sold out can still have this in their collections. So I don't know. I'm hoping we get a limited edition steelbook reprint of this at some point. But, we don't know when or if that's even going to happen. So your only option right now is trying to find a copy on the secondary market on eBay or whatnot. And they're probably going to be pretty pricey as of right now. It could be $100, $200 for this on eBay, which is, I know, it's ridiculous. But, what are you going to do, right? But it's a fantastic looking 4K. It has tons of bonus features. The restoration looks killer. And, Fincher made some changes to the restoration. He kind of tinkered with this a little bit, but I think it looks the best it's ever looked on home media before. And of course, this film never even got a Blu-ray prior to this 4K release. The last time we got this movie on home media was on DVD, and I actually had that old DVD. So I was excited for this to get a 4K release, but I expected them to produce enough units to satisfy the demand, and Sony did not do that with this title. So unfortunately, that's where we're at with Panic Room on 4K. But I do think it's a must-own title for fans of this film, and hopefully there will be more copies produced at some point. For my number 8, Panic Room. All right, and next up for my number 7 here, we've got a 2009 film, James Cameron's Avatar. Now, this is the theatrical cut. Right, this is the original 4K that was first released. But if I'm being completely honest, I would recommend getting the Ultimate Collector's Edition if you're a fan of this film, because this does not have the extended cut of Avatar included. Basically, they released this on 4K, and then about 6 months later, they released this Ultimate Collector's Edition, and that's the one I'm actually going to put up here because that's the one I watch. That's the one that this is the only version I'd watch, because they include the longer extended cut with those scenes on Earth, which I think are really important to the whole experience of the film. I like those extra scenes, especially at the beginning on Earth. And they didn't include those, that extended cut in the original 4K release. So if you're looking for that extended cut, don't get this version, right? This will only give you the theatrical cut in 4K. You do get all the, tons of bonus features and stuff on this if you want to see it real quick. I don't know how well you can see that, but this is the version to get for me right now. Of course, this is a much more expensive version as well. Right? This is a 4-disc version. This is a 3-disc version. This one you'll find on Amazon for like $20 or something, right? Whereas if you want the Ultimate Collector's Edition, it's also available on Amazon, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. This one's like closer to $50, right? You do get an extra disc and some extra bonus features, and of course that extended cut. But it's really the only way you can get the extended cut of this film is if you get the Ultimate Collector's Edition here. So that's the only drag about this. If you buy this, you're not getting that extended stuff. So just keep that in mind. But let's take a quick look at this, because this is kind of cool. It is a chunky box. I mean, it's not that thick, but it's got a rigid outer slipcase, right? So it's nice, and you get that nice hard box. And then it comes out. Let me show you the back of this, because this really is gorgeous artwork. You saw the front, right? And then the back. There you go. Look at that. How awesome is that? And then you get a magnetic clasp digibook, which is really cool. And it has some cool art there. Got the art there. Same thing. And then on the inside, you open it up. This is hard to do. Let me get my J card out of there. All right, there you go. Take a look at that. Now, I don't like the way they have the discs in there. It's a disc in a cardboard slot, and I that's like a pet peeve of mine. And I took out the one on that side, the one that had the extended cut of the film, and I put that in a separate 4K case. The other ones I didn't really care that much about, because I've got most of these bonus features on the other theatrical release 4K. So I'm not crazy about how they put the discs in there, and they were in there really tight when I first got it. But the packaging on this is gorgeous. I just love the case and the fact that I got a rigid hardbox edition of this film. They also put out the same thing for Avatar 2, but I didn't buy this edition for Avatar 2. I just went with the standard edition 4K. But yeah, I would, if you're a fan of Avatar, if you're a big James Cameron fan like I am, and you have to have that extended cut, then I would strongly recommend getting that. But if you don't care about the extended cut and you still want the movie, you can always just get the standard edition 4K with the theatrical cut. Nothing wrong with that. So if you're a big fan of this film and a big fan of James Cameron, then I would definitely recommend adding this to your collection on 4K, Avatar. All right, and for my number 6, got a little more Antoine Fuqua action on here. Like I said, I'm a big Antoine Fuqua fan. I'm talking about Training Day from 2001, Denzel, Ethan Hawke. You definitely cannot go wrong with this movie on 4K. It's absolutely a must-own. I think it's a demo-worthy title, and yeah, it just looks incredible on the format. Now, I don't know if you can still get this Steelbook anymore. I think the Steelbook's out of print now, or you can, probably, again, find it on eBay on the secondary market and maybe pay a little bit more for it. But unlike Sony, this is a Warner Brothers release, and Warner Brothers does seem to care about its customers and has produced standard edition 4Ks for this as well. But Warner doesn't pull the kind of crap that Sony does by only putting out a limited Steelbook and then when it sells out just saying, sorry, you're shit out of luck, that's all she wrote. I mean, that's essentially what Sony is doing these days. Warner Brothers, they take care of their customers a little bit more, and they always make sure that their customers have different options, right? Not just one limited option. And I very much appreciate that about Warner Brothers. And they're doing killer transfers as well. Their restorations are really good these days. A lot of times, they sometimes do new 4K releases, like they scan them in 8K, right? They source their restorations, their 4K restorations from 8K scans of the original camera negative. So Warner Brothers seems like they're doing quite a bit to keep physical media alive, keep it out there, and make sure that it doesn't die on us. I guess I should show you the back of the Steelbook because I always kind of like this one. The bullet holes on the back there. That's pretty cool. I always really like that, and I like to show that off whenever I'm talking about this one on the channel. This is one I've mentioned quite a few times on the channel before. But this is a killer looking 4K. The colors really pop on this one. You got some amazing detail, and of course that richness to the image that you get with the HDR and the increased depth to the image. Yeah, easily the best this movie has ever looked before, period. Right? That's my view anyway. I think they just did a great job with this one. So yeah, for my number 6, Training Day. All right, moving into the top 5 here, another M. Night Shyamalan movie from 2002, Signs. As I mentioned earlier with M. Night's movies, yeah, his movies are like, they seem like they're practically made for 4K. I mean, they really, really shine on 4K. And this is definitely no exception. It just looks killer on 4K. So much pop to the image and, so much depth. A lot of great detail. You got all that real in-camera stuff and practical stuff. It's not the kind of movie where you got a bunch of CGI stuff to soften up the image. No, this looks nice and sharp and crisp. And yeah, really good detail. Really good looking image here. If you're a fan of this film, you definitely have to add this one to your collection on 4K because I do think it's a must-own. I think it's a demo-worthy transfer. So yeah, for my number 5, Signs. All right, and for my number 4, we got a pretty big one here. Lord of the Rings. Yeah, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, this is absolutely a must-own. This looks absolutely fantastic. It just stunning, like to the point where I was kind of speechless when I was watching this the first time. Now, the funny thing is, I'm not even a big fan of this franchise, right? This is more my wife's thing. In fact, I got this for my wife because she's such a big fan of the franchise. And I had never even seen these movies until I got the 4K, right? And my wife and I started watching them. But I was blown away by how amazing these films look in 4K. Yeah, I mean, I think these are reference quality 4Ks, easily demo-worthy 4Ks. And yeah, I'm assuming the best these films have ever looked, but of course, I never saw them prior to getting the 4K, so I can't really comment on how much of an upgrade it is. But I assume if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, then you're going to want them in the absolute best possible quality, right? And that is on 4K. So I would highly recommend picking these up on 4K. I was really impressed with the way they turned out when I first watched them. So yeah, for my number 4, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. All right, and next up for my number 3, got a little Quentin Tarantino action here. I'm, of course, talking about the Kill Bill movies. I'm cheating a little bit. 2 entries or 2 movies for this entry. Yeah. Now, my take on Tarantino on 4K, I mean, if you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, then you should get every movie of his on 4K because they all look good. Well, actually, I've heard Inglourious Basterds doesn't look that great on 4K. I don't know. Maybe some of you can tell me. I wasn't a big fan of that particular film. I mean, it was okay. I didn't dislike it. I just, that's probably my least favorite Tarantino film, Inglourious Basterds. So I never bought the 4K. But that aside, I mean, every other Tarantino 4K I've seen has looked really good. You know, and most of the ones I've seen are the older movies, right? Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, and the Kill Bills. So that's primarily what I'm talking about. All of those are good on 4K. But yeah, these are demo-worthy 4Ks. They are absolutely demo-worthy 4Ks. They're the kind of thing that will impress anybody you show them to. At least that's my assumption, right? Because they just look so damn good on 4K. The usual presence to the image, the colors look nice and vivid, really vibrant looking image, and the usual depth and pop that you would expect to see with 4K. That's definitely here with the Kill Bill movies. So yeah, if you're a Tarantino fan, you definitely owe it to yourself to pick these up on 4K. So yeah, for my number 3, the Kill Bills. And for my number 2, we've got a Zack Snyder film here from 2004, the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is one of my favorite horror remakes ever, if not my favorite horror remake. Holy shit, does this look good. I mean, the detail is off the charts on this, and the colors, I mean, you want to talk about colors popping, you definitely get that with Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, I was really happy with the way this came out, and I was pretty excited when Scream Factory said they were releasing it, but then when I saw it, I was kind of surprised. Like, I didn't expect this film to look as good as it does. And I don't know why. I was just assuming, you know, it's a later film. You know, when I think of 4K restorations, I think of older films or older movies shot on film. I don't necessarily think of the, you know, post-2000 stuff, right? But this absolutely looks incredible on 4K. And if you're a fan of this, you can't go wrong adding this to your collection on 4K. Now, if I remember right, I think you only get the extended unrated cut on 4K for this. You actually don't get the theatrical cut on 4K. I mean, they do include the theatrical cut on a separate Blu-ray, but it's not on a 4K disc. And, you know, I don't really have a problem with that because I would be watching the unrated cut anyway. It's also worth noting that I think I had this on my top 4Ks of the year that this came out. I think it might have been pretty high on my list. I think it might have been number 2 or 3 on my list, maybe even number 1. I don't think it was number 1 that year, but yeah, when I did my year-end roundup, the year this came out, I think it was a couple years ago now. Yeah, this ended up on my best 4Ks of the year list because it is just that good. It's absolutely demo worthy. So anyway, if you're a horror fan, if you're a Zack Snyder fan, if you're a fan of this movie, you should absolutely add this one to your collection on 4K. For my number 2, Dawn of the Dead. And then finally, for my number 1, let's get into a little Batman action here. I'm talking about The Dark Knight, really the whole trilogy. But for our purposes here, I'm primarily talking about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, right? But of course, I would recommend getting the entire Dark Knight trilogy, but for the 2000s, we're just focused on the 2005 film and the 2008 film. So one thing I can say about this 4K is it's a huge improvement over the Blu-rays, right? Especially Batman Begins. You know, I was never really happy with the old Batman Begins Blu-ray. It was one of the earlier Blu-rays. I think it came out in 2006. And so it was never really the greatest looking Blu-ray. And so when I went to pick this up on 4K, that was definitely one of the things I was looking for. It's like, how much of an improvement for this film are we going to get on 4K? And it's a pretty significant improvement. It easily looks the best it ever has. Batman Begins in particular looks the best it ever has on 4K. And I'm a big fan of Batman Begins. In fact, I like that as much, if not maybe even a little bit more than The Dark Knight. I love Batman Begins because that movie really hooked me into the whole live action comic book genre at the time. I loved the darker approach that Christopher Nolan took. And yeah, I was totally hooked on it after I saw Batman Begins. But The Dark Knight also looks just incredible on 4K. There is some really, I'd say The Dark Knight is definitely reference quality or demo worthy. And of course, The Dark Knight Rises looks incredible as well. But again, we're just talking about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Yeah, if you're a fan of Batman, if you're a fan of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, I would strongly recommend adding this to your collection on 4K. I do think The Dark Knight trilogy is a must-own title for the format. So for my number one, The Dark Knight Trilogy. Okay, so that about wraps it up for my top 20 must-own 4K movies from the 2000s. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments below. What do you think of my choices here? And what are some of your favorite must-own 4K movies from the 2000s? I always like chatting with you guys and interacting with you guys, so make sure you leave me some feedback down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.